Now if you look at it through this inspect element, by the time you check this div, you see that this is the label, and you see that this is required. This is required, and the maximum length is 254 based on the properties that we define in here. So if I change the label here to enter your full name, and I save. If I go back, you see that it will have changed the label to enter your full name, and that is the inbuilt functionality of Django form. Now I just want to space this now temporarily. I come to this contact.html. Let me just break. So if I save it now and I come ahead to see just to space. Now the beauty of this is that the validation that you're adding is not just front end based or template based, but it's server based. So if I remove this now and I remove the required, because even, let me refresh now. If I refresh it and I try to submit, it will tell me that this feed is required. Let me just cancel this. You can say me, please fill out this feed because it is required. So if I just come here and I remove that required from it, so and I just click on submit, it will tell me that it's return none. So of course it will not submit. Because the validation is server side and not just front end based. So moving forward, let's see how to break our stuff down. Let's see how to break it down. So if you come into your contact.html, you should know that you can split it. You can break it down and maybe sometimes display an error message and some other stuff. So if you just want to render it the way it comes from the forms.py, you can just use this. But sometimes you might want to break it down. Maybe you have some class, you have your HTML, you can just break it down like this. Let me just comment out this, and you can break it down. Maybe you want to have a div. It's class of, maybe let me call it input feed. Maybe you want to style it, and at the point when the user enter something that has error, you want to display the error, and if it does not have error, you want to just walk through it. So let's say you want to, like, based on the condition of, okay, if it have error, display this class. If it does not have error, display this class. So all you just need to do is just do the curly braces with the percentage, and you can render an if statement here to say if form dot the name of the form, which is full name in this case, full name dot errors. That means if it has errors, then I can go ahead to maybe add a class of errors, and I end my, don't forget that when you're writing Python code, you use the curly braces and percentage, and don't forget when you start if, you should end it. So this class will only be attached if I have errors in the feed. So if I want to render the feed now, I can then use this double curly braces like I used previously, in here previously. I will then say that form dot full name, and here is my label tag, and after the label, I want to also display the input feed. The input feed can then be form dot full name. So I will then possibly I have some errors I want to display. I will then display the errors. I will then display the errors to be errors. So now you should go ahead now and display the errors, but I want us to update these views so that when the user posts something, I want to be able to write a function here and also define an error message in here. So if I don't want it to take a default error message, then all I just need to do is just come in here. Forget that I have set two major conditions of maximum length of 254 and required to be true. So let me just see. So you can add another attribute of error messages and I'll set that to be equals to, don't forget I've set two conditions. The first one is it is required, the second one is that the maximum length should be 254. So I'll set the required, so just a descriptive message saying, instead of to just say this form is required, something like that, I can just put the error message of full name is required. Full name is required. And for the second one of maximum length, I can then set the maximum if the user enter. So the name of the validation is what you use. You can see that in here when I was setting the required, I use the name of the validation, which is this required, and this here to maximum length, I use the name of the validation, so maximum length, and I'll set that to maybe full name characters. If it exceeds the maximum length, is too long, so I can set that. So if so, but you should take note of the fact that this required, you can decide to leave it because by default it is always true. So except you want to set the required to false, that is most of the time when you use it, but those just to know that it exists, that is why I am adding it. So now that we have worked on that, we save. Let us now go ahead to update our views of when the user sent a submit request or a post request. So all you just need to do in there is to now say, okay, when the user submit a post request, that means I'm getting a form. So I'll then say form is equals to the contact form that I've imported earlier. This contact form that I've imported earlier. I'll then say form is equals to the contact form, and I'll get whatever the user pass into the form from request.post. And just like we did the other time where we validated our input feed manually, now we're going to be validating the input feed using the built-in Django validation. So now what you now need to do is now say if form dot if it's valid, that is the validation, that is the inbuilt validation. If it is valid, then you should now go ahead to get the details by saying, let's say the contacts that the user enter is equal to the contact us form. Valid means all conditions are met. We should save it to save to database, and saving to database requires that we add our model, we update the model. Let me just put pass here for now. Add our model, update the model, and then push it to the database. So after we have saved to the database, we can now, just like we are doing here, we can now redirect. Of course, for now, let me just print it. I'll just print form dot clean data. Cleaned data, that means the validated input. This is going to be returning a dictionary key value pair. The key will be the name that you have given to the inputs, and the value will be the value that the user pass into the input. But for now, let's see this in action. And after that has been done, let's just like we are doing here, we then redirect to the message sent feed. Message sent feed. Message sent feed. Don't forget Python is an indented code, so you should be careful of, you should pay attention to the indentation. So if I save it now and I go back to my form feed, I refresh. If I try to submit now, of course feed is required, so let me remove this required and I try to submit. Alright, so let's just make this return to be callable by default. Refresh this now. You can see now that I'm getting the error. So the problem before was that I, at the point when the request is post, it come in here, and if the form is not valid, it is not return any other thing. But if the form is not post, then even if the form is not post, it will still return the form. So but at the point when it's valid, then it will not get to this point again. It will return the redirect message. So now if you can see that I have the error feed now, which is required. So let's test the maximum length in action. The maximum length, don't forget that we have set it to 254. So let me just set the maximum length to 10 for testing sake. Of course, a typical full name will be more than 10 characters. So but for now, let's test 10 in action. So if I come in here and I refresh, yes. So now I remove the required first to see it in action and I submit. See that full name is required. I get the error message. Now if I also, now I've set the maximum length to be 10. So let me now set more than 10 characters. Of course, because it is setting in here, I will remove this maximum length too manually. So if I set more than 10 and I submit, you see that I'm getting full name characters is too long. So meaning that I'm getting my label. Let's go back, let's switch in here. So if you see these views, I'm getting the label, which is this. I'm getting the input feed, which is this, and I'm getting the message error message, which is this.